You pull the plastic bag tight and double knot it. The smell of old fries and sour milk fills your nostrils, but you don't flinch. You've been working this janitor shift at the mall for 8 hours, and your back feels stiff like a tree. You look at the clock, 10 p.m. Time to go home. You walk past the Apple store and the jewelry shop, watching the security guard scroll on his phone. He doesn't even look up as you pass. You think about the bus ride home, the electricity bill on the fridge with the orange shutoff notice, the fact that you're $60 short to buy new shoes for your son's birthday. You walk out into the cool California night, feeling invisible. Suddenly, a blue SUV screams around the corner. It doesn't slow down. It jerks to a stop right in front of a parked Lexus. A kid jumps out. He's wearing a black hoodie, a tight face mask, and purple jeans. He doesn't look at you, or anything else actually, except the window of that Lexus. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a tiny tool. It looks like a toy, and he uses it to tap on the glass. Pop! The window turns into 1,000 tiny diamonds that spill onto the pavement. The kid reaches in, grabs a leather laptop bag, and hops back into the SUV. The whole thing took 6 seconds. The SUV peels out, leaving nothing but the sound of tires screaming and the smell of burnt rubber. You stand there, your hand shaking, holding your bus pass as you watch the red taillights disappear. You look back at the shattered glass and think about how hard you worked for $80 today. That kid just made $2,000 in the time it took you to process what was going on. That was your first bippy. That's what they call it here in Oakland. 3 nights later, you're back at the mall you work as a janitor for. This time, you're sitting in the driver's seat of a car you borrowed from a friend who doesn't ask questions. Your heart is hitting your ribs like a drum. You see a rental car pull into the far lot. Tourists, they always leave their bags in the back. You visualize the kid in purple jeans. You reach into your pocket and feel the rescue tool you bought for $2 online. It's supposed to save people from sinking cars, but tonight, it's your key to a different life. You pop out while the car's still rolling. You don't think. You tap the back window of the rental. Pop! You grab a backpack. Ooh, it's heavy. You're back at the car and gone before the alarm even starts to honk. You drive to a quiet street and open the bag. A MacBook, a pair of designer sunglasses, and a gold watch. You sell it all to a guy behind a car wash for 8,000 buckaroos of cold hard cash. You walk into your apartment with a spring in your step and put the money on the table. For the first time in 3 years, the orange notice on the fridge doesn't scare you. You tell yourself it's just for the shoes. You tell yourself you're just catching up. But then you think about the mall. You think about how nobody stopped you. You think about how the police didn't even show up until 40 minutes after you were already home eating dinner. Fast forward 6 months and you don't work at the mall anymore. Neither are you still bipping cars. You're boosting now. And that means walking into a store in broad daylight and taking what you want. Wait, you could just do that? Hear me out. Criminals at work too. And 3 guys taught you that the system here isn't just soft, it's broken. But still, it feels wrong the first time. You walk into a high-end clothing store with the 3 of them, all of you wearing masks. You expect sirens. You expect someone to tackle you. Instead, the employees just stand back and watch. They're told not to touch you because it's too dangerous. You grab 10 sweatshirts, worth $100 each, and walk right out of the front door. You see, it's because of this law called Prop 47. It says if you steal less than $950, it's just a misdemeanor. That's like a ticket for littering. Why? Because there are only about 600 police officers for the whole city, and for 3,000 calls on a normal day, only about 30 or 35 of them are actually out on patrol. You do the math. So if you don't hurt anyone, they basically let you go. You start keeping a schedule. Tuesdays and Thursdays are for the suburbs. Wednesdays are for the downtown garages. You learn the tricks. You never use your own car. You use a striker, a stolen car with a shaved key. You find them in rich neighborhoods at night, because people are lazy and leave their keys in the cup holder of their fast cars. One night, you're out with a kid who calls himself Mr. Ignorant. He's 17, but he's got the eyes of a 40-year-old man who's seen too much. He carries a GoPro on his head, saying he wants to be famous on YouTube for running from the cops. He's driving you in a stolen Dodge Charger when suddenly, the red and blue lights flip on behind you. Your stomach drops. You expect him to pull over, but he just laughs, sticks his hand out on the window and waves at the cops. Then, he hits the gas. The car fishtails, smoke filling in the air, and suddenly you're flying through a residential neighborhood at 80 miles an hour. You're terrified, but you notice something. The cop isn't getting closer. In fact, he's slowing down. The city has a no-chase policy. If it gets too dangerous, the cops have to let you go. They don't want to crash on their hands. Mr. Ignorant turns a corner, zips through an alley, and kills the lights. You got away again. But as the weeks go by, you realize the street level is just the beginning. You're introduced to a guy named Ryan. He sits in a dark room with 3 computers computer monitors, and a mechanical keyboard. He tells you that while you're risking your life for a laptop, he's making 10 times that without leaving his chair. He shows you a database, and it has 3 billion rows of data. It's the National Public Data Breach. He points at a name. It's your neighbor. He shows you his social security number, his old addresses, his mother's maiden name. Ryan tells you that he can apply for 10 credit cards in your neighbor's name before the sun comes up. He can ship the phones and laptops to a burner address and sell them before your neighbor even gets his mail. You realize that the crime you've been doing is loud and messy. This is quiet and invisible. Ryan explains that hackers are the new gangsters. He says that there are places on the dark web where you can buy credit card numbers for $5 or even find people selling organs and weapons. Ryan takes a small white device out of his pocket. It looks like a toy pager. He calls it a Flipper Zero. Ryan brings you to a local barber shop to demonstrate under the guise of getting a haircut. You see a guy walk in with a nice watch and a leather wallet. Ryan stands near him for 3 seconds. Doesn't touch him. Doesn't even look at him. On the screen of the device, a number pops up. It's the guy's credit card number. Ryan captured the signal right through the leather. Tells you most people don't use RFID blocking wallets, so they're basically broadcasting their money to anyone standing close enough. Then he points the device at a TV on the wall. The volume starts screaming at 100%. People jump. The barber looks so confused. Ryan clicks another button and the air conditioner shuts off. He's laughing. He tells you he can do this to garage doors too. He shows you how he can sniff the signal from a garage door opener. Once he has it, he has forever access to the house. And most people leave the door from the garage to the kitchen unlocked. You bring Ryan back to your apartment. You want to show him that you're smart too. You show him the smart light bulb you bought to save energy. Ryan just smiles. He pulls out a laptop and connects to the light bulb. He tells you the bulb is capturing all the traffic on your Wi-Fi. It knows when your phone is in the house and when it leaves. It knows your passwords. He says he can leave this bulb in someone's house as a repairman and know exactly when they aren't home so he can come back and take whatever he wants. But not every criminal is a genius with a keyboard. Some are much louder. A few days later, you're driving through the Central Valley. You're headed toward Bakersfield. People call it the armpit of California, and they aren't being nice. It's hot, dusty, and feels like a place where the rules just stopped working. You spot a stretch of tracks where a massive cargo train has screeched to a halt, and you decide to pull up nearby to see what's happening. You see the shadows moving before you can hear them. A group of guys emerges from the tall grass, most of them looking like they haven't showered in a month. One of them walks up to a massive brown shipping container. He's carrying a pair of heavy-duty bolt cutters. Snap. The metal seal hits the dirt. He heaves the heavy doors open. Inside, it looks like a giant's toy box. Thousands of Amazon packages, FedEx boxes, and crates of electronics that are stacked to the ceiling. Holy shit! It is a free-for-all. People start grabbing whatever they can carry. You see a guy running off with a brand new office printer. Another woman's dragging a box full of baby formula. You watch a package tumble out. That could have been a birthday gift for someone. Now it's just trash on the side of a dusty road in Bakersfield. To get the courage, you ask them how they get the trains to stop. He points to an old beat-up car parked right on the tracks a mile down. They just drive a striker onto the rails and put the hazards on. The conductor doesn't have a choice but to stop the train. And once it reaches a halt, it's simply piranhas on a piece of meat. Genius. How much do you make? You ask. On a good night? $5,000, the guy says. He's breathing hard, his adrenaline pumping. I love the rush. It's better than any job. But as you look around, you don't see any Ferraris. You see a precision egg cooker lying in the dirt because a thief realized it wasn't a laptop and threw it away. You see thousands of dollars of merchandise wasted because it wasn't fast cash. Suddenly, a white truck with a green stripe pulls up. Who's that? Oh my god, it's the sheriff. Your heart stops. You look for a place to run, but you notice the raiders don't stop throwing boxes out of the train. The sheriff slow rolls past the tracks. He looks right at a guy holding a stolen TV. Then he just keeps driving. You can't believe it. You just watched a federal crime happen in broad daylight, and law enforcement acted like they were looking for a parking spot. You ask a local guy why the cops don't do anything. They're scared, he says. Or they just don't have the power. The tracks are federal property, and the cops say they can't build cases that stick, so they just let the feds handle it. But the feds are busy with bigger fish, so good for us. They give you their hand to shake, and you shake back. That night, they bring you to meet a friend named C. He used to have a real life, making $75,000 a year working in agriculture. One day, his wife got sick. She was paralyzed and couldn't walk, so he had to quit his job to take care of her. But that's when the bills started piling up, and the economic stressors started squeezing him until he felt like he was suffocating. So he started hitting trains, and the rest is history. I made $25,000 in a single week, C tells you, but I've also made zero. It's a gamble. He tells you about the Pinkertons. Who are they? You wonder.
That's a name from the history books. The private detectives who used to hunt Butch Cassidy and Jesse James. They're still around, and they're much scarier than local police. They use drones and night vision cameras, and they don't need a search warrant to follow you home from the tracks.
C tells you he got caught once. A police helicopter tracked him back to his safe house. 12 cars swarmed him at gunpoint. They told him he was going to prison for 3 years, but then, a week later, he was back on the street. A technicality with the jurisdiction meant the local police couldn't hold him. Right after, he went back at the tracks. He explains that he's stuck in a cycle, and nobody will give a man with a criminal record that $75,000 job now. So he has to keep stealing to pay for the life he's built on stolen goods. You think back to the time when one of your partners in crime was counting a stack of $20 bills and humming a song. He looks at you and grins. He tells you that the mall's for babies. If you want real money, you'll have to go where the people are crossing. He takes you to a small house on the edge of Phoenix. It's a stash house. From the outside, it looks like any other home with a brown lawn and a rusty fence, but inside, the air is thick and hot. You can count about 30 people sitting on the floor on a single living room. They're quiet, staring at the floor. You see a gallon of water in the corner and a few empty bags of chips. A young man standing at the door, maybe 21, and he's wearing a heavy gold chain, but he looks like an average guy you'd see at a gas station. Your friend introduces him to you as Chapo, who then tells you that he's been in this game for 10 years. He started when he was 14 because human smuggling's easier to get into than drug trafficking. Everyone wants to come to America. He points to a man sitting by the bathtub. The man's covered in dust and his shoes are falling apart. Chapo tells you that this man paid $15,000 to get here. He says in his best month, he made over $200,000 cash. Then he spent it all on jewelry, fast cars, and parties, and it made him feel like he was at the top of the world. You ask him if he's worried about getting caught. He laughs. He pulls out a thick stack of papers, calls it a RICO indictment, some legal document that says the government's chasing 22 people in his group. He's already done federal time in prison and says that once you've been caught, you aren't scared anymore. You just learn how to play the game better. He tells you the secret. Social media is how the young guys get caught. They can't help but flex. They post videos of themselves holding $500,000 in cash or driving a new Mercedes. The police just watch these videos and wait. Chapo says if he hadn't posted those pictures, he'd still be out here making 50 grand a night. Now he's more careful. He uses burners, cheap cars bought off the internet for $2,000. If the police chase him, he just leaves the car in an alley and runs. He drives you toward the border. From far, you see a big white bus filled with people. Chapo points at it and says that's the recycle bin. He's seen the same man get deported and come back 6 times in 1 year. Every time the man gets sent back, he pays Chapo another $10,000 to bring him across again. Later, Chapo hands you over to a man named Art, standing by the dusty road and looking at the mountains. He was a border patrol agent for 22 years and is going to explain how the game works. He says under the old rules, people would cross and ask for asylum. They'd be let into the country and told to show up for a court date 3 years later. But nowadays, the rules are tougher. You have to prove that you're in danger before you can stay. But Art says the cartels are smart. They send 500 people across in one spot, and all the agents have to go there to help. They have to find food and water for everyone. And while the agents are busy with the crowd, the cartels send the high-value stuff through the empty spots. You ask what he's referring to. He says it's for moving drugs and people who don't want to be seen. You get back into the stash house, where you see a white van pull up. The side door opens and 10 more people hop out. They look exhausted. They've been walking for 7 days in the desert heat. Some of them have scratches from barbed wire. You see a woman crying as she calls her kids on a cell phone. Sounds like she's telling them she's finally made it. Chapo tells you a story about a high-speed chase. He's had 16 people in the back of a pickup truck. The police flipped on their lights and he didn't stop. He says the people in the back weren't screaming because they were scared of crashing. They were screaming because they were scared of being sent home. He ended up dropping them off at the side of a dirt road while the police were right behind him. He says that's the hardest part of the job, leaving people behind when the ICE agents are closing in, but the smugglers always find new ways around to adapt and keep going. You ask him if he's a bad person. He points at the people in this living room, saying he thinks he's helping. America needs people to pick vegetables, build houses, and do the landscaping. What would the country look like without them? I respect these people so much I feed them 4 times a day and make sure they have plenty of water. But with time, you see the other side. You hear about a metal trailer in San Antonio where 53 people died because it got too hot. You hear about boats flipping over in the ocean. You realize that to the smugglers, these people are product. If they pay, they get a ride. If they don't pay, They stay in the stash house, sometimes for days, sometimes for months. Chapo shows you a trick they use near the checkpoints. The police have cameras that read license plates. If a car goes through 6 times in a week, the computer flags it. So Chapo and his friends steal license plates from other cars that look exactly the same. They swap them out so the cameras don't see a pattern. It's a simple trick, but it works. As you sit there, you see a long line of black cars drive by. It's a presidential entourage. The vice president's in town for a big event. Chapo just watches them pass. He's standing right there, a man with a federal indictment, watching the most powerful people in the world drive by. He isn't hiding. He's just waiting for them to leave so he can get back to work.